you can lose weight and enjoy the process. It's so exciting to wake up and say, I can't wait to see how much I've lost overnight.
Yeah.
That's just a great feeling. And then, my gosh, I haven't worn these pants since high school. Those are some of my favorite things, is walking down the halls and you see our coaches, our nutritionists looking at a photo of a 40, 50-year-old woman in her wedding picture wearing her wedding dress. She's unable to do that. And just, there's a lot of crying that goes on in here, and happy tears, and that's the stuff that never gets old. That's exciting to see the way people change.
When you're eating an anti-inflammatory type diet, when you're fueling yourself well, your body can do what it's designed to do.
Remember when you were like a teenager, you could eat whatever you wanted. It didn't matter. Cheetos, and you stayed the same weight or you lost weight. And I think what happens is biochemically our body changes the chemical makeup in our body. And so we don't have that metabolism. So our goal, and with the technology that we have available to us, we're able to identify how do we restore normal metabolism back? And normal's not, for a 50-year-old, is not going to be what it was at 18,
right.
But we can improve that metabolism, no doubt. And that's the key, is metabolism.
Welcome to the Fear No Food podcast, health and nutrition stuff for us normal people.
Well, all right, welcome back to the Fear No Food podcast. I'm Dan Lemoyne, and I am honored to be with my co-founder, my father-in-law, Dr. Noel Abood.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, this is great. And congratulations on your podcast. This is so exciting. And I saw the lineup of who you have coming. So I'm just looking for good things in the future.
Yeah, we were chopping it up before the camera started rolling, that either this is going to be just us chopping it up, just goofing around, or there's going to be some nuggets or somewhere in between. So,
because we've done enough of that.
Yeah.
We've known each other since you were in high school. So I don't know how long ago that was, but it was a long time. And we've always had that that spirit of adventure. We've always wanted to do wild things, and this is just one more phase in it.
Yeah, totally. We let's name some of those wild things. What the one that comes to my mind is when I wrangled you to go to Guatemala with me.
So fun.
You've always had a growth mindset, which I've always admired about you, where I'm like, hey, I'm going to Guatemala in a couple weeks to just sharpen my Spanish. Do you want to come? And never in a million years did I think he would say yes. And he was like, yeah, I'll come.
That was such a fun trip. And we ended up spending, I think it was 2 weeks in a home, and the woman only spoke Spanish. And I was lost. Every time they said something, I had to look towards you. I had like a sore neck at the end of dinner because I kept looking to the left as to what did she just say to me. But by the end of the week, I could at least say hello and where's the bathroom. So I felt good about that.
I love it. Yeah, that's all that matters, really. Well, yeah. And I think during that trip, actually, we started, or there was a lot of chat about what could this thing, before it was called Revitalize, what could this look like? Let's go back down memory lane a little bit and talk about, how did this all come about?
We always knew together that we just talked about it forever. Let's do business together. And I think before we opened up the Weight Loss Center, we knew, before we talked even about tactics as to like, how are we going to do it? What are we going to do? We talked about what is our core principles. And what I think, because we're from two different eras, right? I mean, we're years apart. But the thing that we always have had in common is that we were going to treat, if we did this together, we were going to treat our clients with dignity and respect. Because face it, so many people that are fighting weight issues are not being respected, or not getting the proper, the proper appreciation from people, or being treated fairly many times.
Yeah, there's totally a stigma about it. I think of Roger, who actually gave us a little testimonial video when we were having our grand opening for our second office. And he's like, let's face it, you're invisible when you're obese. And it's like,
Exactly. And that's it. And that's what we agreed wholeheartedly. We were going to do that. And we were going to work on just the hands-on, the making sure that client felt appreciated, client service, because you came from more of a background of technology. And I was, in the olden days, just kind of paper and pen writing it out. So it was really cool that we could collaborate and put both of our things together, but that was our common bond, was treating people with dignity and respect and then serving the client. And then everything else will take care of itself. And I still believe that.
If you're enjoying this podcast and would like to learn more about what you can do at home to take control of your health, check out our book. It's an Amazon bestseller. It's called Fear No Food. It's written by myself and Dr. Abood. You can get it at fearnofoodbook.com, or you can find it on Amazon by just typing in Fear No Food, Dan Lemoyne.
You know, we've ebbed and flowed a little bit over the years, where it's like we've gone through seasons of like rapid growth, and you start to like lose a little bit of like your grip on that client experience. And then you kind of have to recorrect and be like, hey guys, how do we get back to, you know, greeting everybody by name when they come in here and knowing, you know, their kids' names and the vacation they went on, and not just treating people like a number, and which is what I think ultimately why we were so successful and have been so successful in the face of some pretty big competitors here, at least locally, is that we continue to hear that like, oh, I just felt like a number at these other places. And I think people are still shocked, like even just out in the waiting room right now, like people are still shocked to find out that this isn't some big corporate thing, when they're like, oh, like Dan's here, like Noel's here, like this is a family thing. Yeah.
And that's what I love that. And I still think that sometimes I do think, being my age, that we're getting too far away from that environment. You know, people are playing chess together online rather than together in person. And so we want to continue with that hands-on experience.
It's like the book Bowling Alone. Are you familiar with it? It's basically just like one of these, like, it's not by Malcolm Gladwell, but that idea of like this kind of a sociological like look at like more and more people are bowling, but bowling leagues is like super low. So it's like everybody's just still going and doing stuff, but we're all just doing stuff by ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, like the HOV lane. Yeah. Yeah, and we've done a lot. We've met Arnold Schwarzenegger together. That was cool. We went to a weightlifting event, and you know, I watched you lifted. So that was fun. Yeah,
Arnold. Yeah, we met Bob Goff, who was like one of our kind of author heroes. David, you know Bob Goff? Yeah, got to hang out with him a couple times.
So we heard him speak, and it was I didn't realize. I said, Dan, let's go. I love this guy. I read his book. I want to get his autograph. And so I said, it's at this church. So we went to this church. I didn't realize it was an all women's event.
So we crashed this. We like went in afterwards and crashed this all ladies event. And you could tell he was kind of mad. He's like, what are these two knuckleheads doing? It's like, we're just trying to make things happen here.
Yeah. So at the end, we wanted to like, I said, let's just go. I'm not going to. Dan said no. And he literally pushed me in
like,
the
get in there. We do hard things.
Bob the guy couldn't have been more grateful.
Yeah,
so we've got a picture. It's on my dresser now, of his arm around me and Dan.
Yeah. So good. So you were doing some weight loss before it was revitalized, and we actually were thinking about, you know, is there a franchise model that we were looking at a franchise. Ultimately felt like starting our own thing made more sense. But what sparked the shift into weight loss from focusing more on people's spine care and other holistic practices you were doing?
I mean, I love what I did. I worked with people with back pain all the time and headaches, and you just saw that sometimes we weren't getting at the real cause. Sometimes it's due to all this excess weight they're carrying, but the real catalyst was at the age of 49 on the tennis court having a heart attack. I mean, you talk about a moment in time that just freezes in my mind, and that's what it was. I can't say I didn't expect it, but at the same time, it changes your whole dynamic. If your whole career is centered around holistic health, and then you're the one that gets the heart attack, what do you do with that? And you know, I knew, but here's the thing: I was 20 pounds overweight, 49 years old. My triglycerides were through the roof. You know, 6 of my 7 siblings all have it. So I thought, oh, it's congenital. But I tried. But it wasn't like I didn't try to lose that 20 pounds. I did.
Yeah, because you were vegan, you were vegetarian. I knew you as you were running marathons. Like you were like, I feel like in our hometown, like I feel like for me, my perspective as like a young adult, I'm like, man, this he's healthy, he's pursuing health. And that was like really motivating to me. And then it's like, oh, and that, you know, you have this episode, and it was
I was in a dark place after that. I really was. But you know what? After I got those blood tests and I knew I was overweight, and I tried all the vegan, the diet, the running and all that. And I'd lose the weight. And then as soon as I would go on a vacation, it would all come back and, whatever. And it was frustrating. So I did what I think so many of our clients do. And they say, doesn't work. I'm just going to live the way I am, because I had a practice to run. I had children to raise. So, you can't just, I just gave up. And so when I had the heart attack, this dark place that I'm in, I figured I got to try something. So I doubled down on the exercise and everything, still no help. And it wasn't until a doctor that's a friend that I trusted, he said, try this program where it's new. It's using a technology called GSR, and it's going to help identify what are the foods that are right for your body, what are the nutritional things that are deficient in your body. Sounded weird, sounded unusual, but I tried it because I trusted him. And that's why so many of our clients come to us, I think, is because they trust us. And so I did it. And the long and short is he said, you're going to love it. You're not going to be hungry. And I thought, yeah, that's nice of him to say, because I love my breads and starches and so forth. But honest to God, I wasn't hungry, because if I was, I couldn't have done 20 days on this program if I was hungry. I wasn't. My energy was good. I lost 20 pounds and that was in 20 days. And that was 16 years ago. I've kept it off. Yeah. I'll fluctuate between 7 or 8 pounds, but I know how to bring it down when I'm up. But my triglyceride levels went down to normal. And it's been great. It's just been really great. And so I thought to myself, why not do this with other people? And I got the advice of other people, and not to throw you under the bus, but I remember, because you were still in college, and I was consulting with you, and I said, what do you think, Dan? Should I start introducing this? And you go, nah, that ain't going to work.
I was super skeptical. Right. Yeah. Then my mom went through it, and I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah.
And I don't blame you, because I was skeptical, but it worked for me. And I felt like, well, I'll just do this as kind of a side venture in our practice. And then I start, oh my goodness, this is working well, And so more and more it converted strictly into that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite remarkable with just, 3 weeks, 20 days of an anti-inflammatory eating that's customized to you. What results, not just we see on the scale with people, but just internally, and different biomarkers and metrics there. What kind of switching gears, one of the things I always admire about you is, like, you've been on the, I don't know if cutting edge is the right word, but you've not been shy about trying different things. You went full vegan for 7 years, vegetarian for maybe 7.
Well, vegetarian for 7 and
years.
Vegan for 3.
Vegan for 3. Used to do these crazy fasts and different cleanses and just doing hard things and in the pursuit of wellness. What are some let's go down the list of some of the things that you've tried or you've done or that you still do that you would say maybe the average person would be like, oh, what's that all about?
Oh, I know which one you're thinking. And I'm going to say it. I don't really care what the audience thinks. But what it is you drink almost like a pint of olive oil and then go to bed. And then you take Epsom salt. And the idea is that it cleanses gallstones in your body. And they'd come out. And I'd take photos and I'd send them to you. I'd send them to my daughter and not appropriate, but I was so excited about what it did. And so then my wife,
there's my father-in-law's poop again.
So that was one.
That's a good one. I never braved that one. I didn't want to have to live by the toilet for 48 hours.
Right.
You do I remember you do a fast every New Year. I remember, and was that just fruits and vegetables, or what was?
Oh, it was like a 4-day pure fast, and then just doing no coffee. No meat at that point, and so it was just vegetables.
Okay,
and then that was brutal.
Yeah. Okay,
but there's that Japanese term you turned me on to called misogi, where it's every year you do something that's really difficult, and there's a 50% chance you'll fail at it. And there's something inspiring about that, and there's something inspiring like when you're on our program and you're on day 25 of a 40-day program, and you walk into a party and there's just food and everything, and it's just right there.
Yeah.
And you don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
You don't have power over me.
Yeah. It gives you strength. I love
I was on day like 5 or 6 the first time I ever went through this program. We'd moved back into the country, and we were, moving forward with like, hey, we're going to open a Revitalize in Phoenix, but I need to go through the program. I've seen my family members, seen my wife, my mom go through the program. I need to go through this. I'm on day 4, and you take me to like this world famous donut shop in our hometown. And you're like, hey, will you run in and get us some coffees? And I'm like, are you kidding me?
I remember that. Yeah, that was fun.
The psyops is a psychological warfare you're putting on me there. So good. But what do you think? Have you always been that way? Have you always been like, maybe everybody's zigging and you're zagging and you're thinking outside of the box or trying different things?
And I see that's how you are. And it's awkward at times, but it's like, that's what I want to do. I don't know why this thirst for knowledge or something new. And I think that's what got us to this point in the weight loss, because we opened it. I don't know if we were clear in this, but I opened it in Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio. And then I was ready to kind of close that, and I wanted to move here to warmer weather. And that's when we were deciding to collaborate and work together. But one of the things in Ohio that was so great for me is, if you're from Cleveland, Ohio, everybody knows the name Greg Pruitt. Everybody's a Cleveland Browns fan, and he was an all-pro running back, and he's like a celebrity in our town. And so I remember I was taking phone calls at that point from anybody interested in this program, and he called and said, I'm Greg Pruitt. I'd like to come in. I said, the Greg Pruitt? He goes, yes. So anyway, he lost 35 pounds on the program, because, he was a great athlete, but he just was eating like he was still playing.
Yeah, I've golfed with him.
So he came in, he did wonderful on the program. And then the news got a wind of it, the evening news in Cleveland, and they called me and said, hey, do you mind if we kind of come in and just do a story on it? We want to run it at the 6:00 news. And they said, if it goes well, we'll probably do it again in the morning news. I said, sure. So they came in and video. Oh my goodness. We had an online scheduling app, and it crashed because we had so many calls coming in. Then they ran it that morning and even more. And then so they decided to run it 2 more days. It was nuts. I've never experienced anything like it. Everything was shut down. We couldn't even answer the phone quick enough. But what the bottom line is, I had to call in a colleague from California. He was a doctor, to come in to help me. And we were just jamming. We were working 12 hours a day for 3 weeks straight.
But he still calls me to get free tickets to the Phoenix Open to pay back for all those hours and you made him work.
Even though you had nothing to do with it. But what was so cool about that experience was it gave me the confidence to say, hey, this program works, because we had such a wide variety of people. When you figure you come in from the greater Cleveland news, we had people rich, poor, black, white, anything. And it worked. And we learned how to streamline it. And then we just kept tweaking it. And that's where I love the input that you brought in with the technology, and how do we make it even more efficient to do what we want to help our clients. But that was probably a really big stimulus for me to say, I'm going to Arizona. We can duplicate this.
And I remember you telling me about those days where you're like, man, we just can't even, we're just working 10, 12-hour days. And
if you're listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, I want you to know that it is not free. Well, you're watching it for free, you're listening to it for free, but we have a gentleman's agreement here at the Fear No Food podcast. We put a lot of work into this podcast, and all we would ask in return is that you like and subscribe on whatever podcast player that you're listening on, or if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. There's no way that I'm going to be able to check to see if you did. That's why it's the gentleman's agreement. Really appreciate if you took the moment to click that link and subscribe.
We've learned a lot, and we've continued to evolve the program as we learn more about nutrition and what works and what works for different types of people, and really, that every person is getting a bespoke program. You've been on this journey really for a long time, but I feel like even more intensely in these last couple of years when it comes to just meditation and like the mindset side of things. Walk me through that evolution, because I remember a long time ago you got me into like some transcendental meditation and meditation tapes and things like that. But you've been on an interesting journey, and I feel like the more that how that's related to what we do, and we've started to implement not necessarily meditation, but just people understanding how stress affects the metabolism, how stress affects your biology, inflammation response, and weight gain and weight maintenance. The more and more I feel like, man, that's actually a bigger piece of the puzzle than just, what you're eating. It's just what state is your nervous system in, when you're eating. Talk to me a little bit about that journey. What have you learned?
So much. And I don't want it to come off as some woo-woo hippie thing, because it's not. I mean, the research is really clear that our minds are cluttered. I mean, think about it. You can't wait in line at the grocery store 3 minutes and somebody's not on their phone. And we need quiet time and we need to let our minds settle. And regarding weight loss, we all know there's a hormone called cortisol. And when you're under stress, whether it's good stress, bad stress, any kind of stress, too much work, children, family, marital problems, these cortisol level, it's a hormone and it's a fat storage hormone, and it makes you hold on to fat. And I tell clients, I say, you can eat really, really well. You're just not going to have long-term success until you can battle this stress. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think, even if you could just do 15 minutes a day, and that's where I started, 15 minutes a day of guided meditation, where I clear my mind. And for me as a Christian, I put my faith in God, and that's where I center myself, and I feel ready to go. And it's evolved into an hour a day. It's my favorite hour of the day, my absolute favorite hour of the day. And I come off, and it's not like every time I come out just singing and dancing, but it's over time. It's just freed my heart, and my weight stays under control. And I just think it's an essential part for all our clients. And I think we're probably going to even be talking more about that with our people in the future.
Totally. Yeah. Dr. Dan Wool, who is going to be coming on the podcast here in a week or two. And that was one of the things that he's like, man, I really feel like more and more people should be talking about, is just, he calls it like nervous system mismatch, that like, regardless of what food you're sitting down to, if you're just in this fight or flight state all the time, like your body's just not prepared to process the good food or the bad food well, and your hormones are jacked up. And I think we'll continue to find more and more that like our mental state really does wash over our biology and has a lot of the impact on kind of our.
But it's the word. I think the advice that's so fruitless is, hey, Dan, don't worry. It just makes you worry more. Mm-hmm. And I think we just need to sit down and say, there's no expectations of me right now. I'm just going to sit down and let the Spirit wash over and let it heal. And amazing what it is. Amazing what it is.
And you've gone, you've done meditation retreats, you've looked at research, anything that sticks out, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, anything that sticks out that is particularly interesting, whether that's kind of on the biology side of things, or just like, did you notice any breakthroughs when you meditated for 2 hours a day or 6 hours a day? Because you've done some pretty big meditations, retreats and things like that.
I was at one of the retreats, I was sitting next to a woman in a wheelchair, and I was on day one of a 6-day retreat. And we were meditating 7 hours a day, which sounds brutal to the average. But when you're in it, it's no big deal. But she had been run over by a bus at age 9 or 10 or something like that. She was in her mid-30s and she had not walked. She had time for him. So we became a little bit friendly here and there, and we'd see each other. Almost sudden, on day 6, I see her walking into the pool, real wobbly as heck. I mean, her legs must have been just atrophied. But jumped into the pool and was swimming around. Like, oh my gosh. I said, what happened? She goes, oh my gosh, that last meditation. I just let go of about, and so her body healed. And it wasn't like she was inviting any weird spirits or anything. It was just the physiology. When you calm the brain and when you settle it, your body heals. It starts new genes become, old genes die off and new ones regenerate, and your body just becomes whole. And so that was really a powerful thing for me to see, really powerful. And for me, just to see so much, I've never been a high stress person, but just the peace that surpasses all understanding just seems to settle in my heart and settle in my body on overall. Not to say, things will still get you upset or whatever, but it's not like a long-standing thing that just sticks around.
Yeah, I love that. So you would say start at 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, 15.
Just clear your mind and trying to focus on.
I think it'd probably be easier to start with a tape that somebody walks you through saying, hey, focus on your heart, focus on, rather than just sitting there and that. Because what happens is, did I close the gas cap on my car? Is the door closed? Stuff that just creeps in and you don't have to think about.
Walk me through. So, it's popular now, every time I get on YouTube, it's like so-and-so's morning routine, right? Like what's the morning routine for a bulletproof day? What is your morning routine looking like? I remember at one point in time when we were first opening up Revitalize Phoenix, and you were staying in the second bedroom in my apartment, and you'd get up and go to I'd see you at the pool with a towel on your head and meditating, then you go get your coffee. But do you have I know that's evolved and you're into the greens powder now and things like that. Tell me what's your morning
now
routine?
That I'm rich, I can afford the green powder.
Yeah, because it's not cheap. But unless you want to buy our multi-greens, which are on sale right now at shop.revitalizeweightloss.com.
I love that.
There's the thrill of the shill right here.
Can't we give them a discount for everyone?
Yeah.
But I think that's
discount code podcast10 for 10% off the multi-greens. The link is down below.
Can't stop selling. Yeah, like I think that's so important, like disciplines. And I never got into the cold plunge. It's not my thing. But and I agree. But every morning I would do that hour of meditation. Then my first thing, a glass of water with a hydroactive, which is a mineral. We sell those, and I think it's so valuable for cellular repair and for healing. So I don't think I've missed a day in probably 6 years or so on that. And then I'll wait about a half hour. I have a cup of coffee. Then I'll have a probiotic drink that helps heal the gut. And then lately I've just started introducing maybe at 2 hours later, if I'm hungry, I'll do this bone broth drink, and that seems to settle my appetite. So I'm basically doing 14 to 16 hours without eating, and then eating. I typically eat within an 8 to 10 hour window each day. So that's basically my routine. And then I'm either 5 to 6 days a week, I'm either playing tennis or pickleball or golf or something.
Typically in the morning fasted, or just at some point during the day?
During the day, but typically around 10 or 11 o'clock.
Okay.
And then each morning we have a routine, my wife and I, where we sit and we drink our coffee together and we have our alone time together then.
Cool. All right. So you're fasting every day pretty much?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like 3 or 4 days a week fasted. And then like I did a really long fast the other day, and that was a mistake because then I went to jujitsu in the evening, and it was like one of the hardest trainings they like put us through, and I thought I was going to pass out. I was just about to die. I was like, I should have planned this a little bit better, but I was kind of doing it more for just try to do hard things.
But that's what I love. Remember the show you turned me on to with Chris Hemsworth, where that one episode where they fasted no food, wasn't it, for a week or something, and then they forced him to eat his first meal by jumping in the water and stabbing a fish. That was, if you didn't get it, you didn't eat. But I love that kind of stuff, doing stuff like that. That's hard.
I just went to like a wellness clinic here in town, and I did cryo. Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
It was extremely not fun. for a minute. I was so cold. I was like, if this is what cold plunging's like, give me it. No thanks. Like I felt like $1 million afterwards. It felt like, I just felt like euphoric afterwards. He said, normally people stay in there for 1.5 to 3 minutes. At a minute, I was like, get me out of here. It was just too cold. And it wasn't nitrogen based. So it was like fans of cold air. So there wasn't nitrogen. And then it didn't stop until your skin got to a certain temperature, but I had to pull the ripcord.
So you felt bad?
I did. And then I went into the compression boots, and then they did some like PEMF.
Okay.
So are there any kind of wellness adjacent things that you feel like, I know you were really big into grounding. You do that with my daughter all the time. Is that more just for fun and getting her out of the house, or?
The research is really big on grounding, is how it centers you, because we have the same electrical balance as the earth. And so if we can take our shoes off and be on the grass, it brings harmony and balance to your body. And I read all the research, and it's good, but when I do it, I don't feel any different. And so I think sometimes we just need to do things that we know are good for us, but we do it. Like, do I feel any different after I take the blue fizzy pill? No, but I just know that it's something that's good for my body. And I think that's an important thing to do. Sometimes like conversations with your spouse, they're not always fun, or they're not like life-changing, but we need to be regular with our lives. And I think order and discipline is important for me.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting takeaway, because I feel like there are some certain things where it's like you do this and you immediately feel the effect, whether that's a supplement or a habit or routine. But then there are those things where it's like, this is a compounding effect, and like, it's not going to take, I might not see anything for years, or it's more preventative in nature, which is, really kind of one of the interesting things about, supplements. I don't think we ever really set out to sell supplements. We always just included those with the program. And then people would be like, hey, can I buy these? Because I do feel the effects of the Hydroactive, or I really like taking that B complex, or whatever the thing might be. Or just like, I think it might make sense for me to continue to take these things. And people started knocking down our door to buy those from us.
And that's what I like, is that ours are so pure. I mean, I'm sure everybody listening has had vitamins and they see their urine is bright yellow or something. And all that is just urinating out all the nutrients. Where ours, that will never happen, because we've researched where to get these, and you visited
maximum absorption. And
so it's getting to your body. And that's what we want. Can I go back real quick to the meditation? Something that I found is it gives us insight. Do you remember I made that phone call to you? I was doing this really light meditation, just kind of sitting there, just feeling, and this idea came, and that's when we decided to switch to a different kind of analysis. The technology of GSR is there that will show us where your body is deficient and what foods you need, but we kind of blended it with this certain we kind of put two technologies together and came up with our own version, and the results were like really, really exciting after that.
Yeah, that was a pretty big pivot. It was like, hey, we're going to go down this road. We're going to license the program from this doctor and do it this way. And it was like a phone call, and you're like, hey, I think I should reach out to this lab and talk to these guys and see where that goes. And that turned into, I think we might actually have more efficacy and more success if we went and built our own thing, going this, this route, combining a couple different modalities. And that's,
and we've made the program since then, and we're able to show the client, here's the specific foods, where before the technology that we've tweaked, we've been able to show them the results. And I think that's inspiring as you see the results. And then we made the program a lot more user-friendly. When I started, it was brutal the way they had me on it. There were so many restrictions. I couldn't even use shaving cream or something, and so now we've made it, and we've tweaked it. We didn't just do it half-heartedly, because we tested it. We'd say, okay, we're going to introduce this because we think this will, and it did. And so it makes it a lot more easier.
If I had to like chart the kind of evolution, it was like extremely strict, almost like a protein sparing, modified fast, almost like an HCG type diet without the use of HCG hormone. That was like V1. we're now at a place where it's really more anti-inflammatory. There's no real restrictions that's outside of like, hey, as long as you're eating off this very robust list of food, go for it. You're not counting calories. You're not restricted how many vegetables you have. We want you eating a lot of food. You shouldn't be hungry. We're not super sticklers about like, what personal care products you use and things like that, which at one point in time we still have people keep an eye on like toxicity and things like that, but it's just way more, like you said, way more user friendly. And I think the only way we got here that we're able to say, hey, this can be super flexible, we can customize to the individual, we can make sure that this works well for your lifestyle, is because we almost had to start at that place of like, let's start here.
Yeah.
And see, and then like, okay, let's make this small tweak. Okay, it didn't affect these people's results. Let's make another small tweak. And how can we still get great results, but with making it as easy as possible for people to do?
And that's kind of around the time the Phoenix Suns called us and said, we want to be a part of what you're doing. And they brought us on. And so that was exciting to work with some of the retired athletes and some of the executives in there. And just, I loved working with the pro athletes because, they said, hey, doc, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I love that attitude, the trust. And then it puts the onus on you to say, I'm going to make sure that this works for you.
Sure.
And a lot of people, and no judgment, they're trying it, but then they quit on it and they, they'll call you up, hey, is donuts on the program? No, just give me 20 days where you're not eating donuts. Because we need that certain time frame to kind of clean out the body and get it moving again. And I think,
yeah, totally. I think it's like the folks who do really well on our program are folks who are like, hey, I need a roadmap. I'm good at following directions. Tell me. I had a conversation with a woman. We were just doing that speaking event, and this woman came up to me, and wonderful lady, was explaining some of her struggles with weight. But then she's like, but if you tell me that I can't do, and then listed off 7 or 8 things, I can't drink wine every night with my girls. I can't have, the pastries every morning or my bagel every morning with my husband, this and that. And I'm like, I can't tell you you're going to see results if you can't give that up for just a little bit. We're not saying you have to give it up forever, but you need to follow it as prescribed.
That's just a rational response. And I'm not going to fool anybody. We don't need anybody to come in and just push them. If you're ready, we're ready, but I like how we've changed it so that there's different offerings. You don't have to go hardcore on the program. You can do it in bits and pieces, and we want to make it more
flexible lifestyle program. But I think framing expectations that like, hey, you might not lose 20, 30 pounds in the next 6 weeks, like most folks. If we're doing the flexible thing, that'll, it's just going to take a little bit longer, and that's okay. And we have many folks who are totally okay with that. They're saying, hey, I would rather be able to, there are some folks who are like, hey, I'm all in. Tell me what I got to do. Blinders on. Let's go. I'm not messing around. And there's other folks who are like, I don't care if it takes me 3 or 4 months to lose 30 pounds. It doesn't have to happen in the next 6 weeks. I want to be able to, have a couple beers with the guys at the football game.
I love that. We've got to make it realistic, But do you think there's a lot of people that are saying, I just don't have it. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I have what it takes, because I'm just, from my personal experience, before I got on it, when this doctor 16 years ago told me what I had to do for 20 days, I'm like, I don't know, geez, I can't even watch a sitcom for a half hour without feeling like I got to get up and get some popcorn or something, And so do you feel that that's a common thought pattern for a lot of people?
I think that's a big thing to overcome. And I think where we talked about it on one of the podcasts with Lee Caliendo, who's one of our lead coaches here, is just that, number one, readiness is a cycle. Like, you just get to a point where you say, I'm like, something, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so I'm willing and open to making these changes. I think a lot about the book Switch, where they talk about like, there's this rational rider on this emotional elephant. How do you get that elephant to move? Most of the time we can get that emotional elephant to move where we need it. But once that thing starts raging or gets triggered, it's going wherever it wants. So how do you shape the path? And one of the things I learned from you is like, you don't put the popcorn where you can just easily grab it. You go put it in the laundry room or somewhere else. And like, we found that with our members, not only do they find that a lot of those cravings do change, where they're like, hey, I don't have this out of control appetite anymore, or the things that I used to crave, I don't crave anymore. But also learning just the very tactical stuff of like, what should I have in the house instead
Yes.
of the chips, or where can I put the chips where I'm only having, those every so often.
That's it. And can we, I used to laugh at the idea of, because 16 years ago, that doctor said to me, I want you to lose weight and enjoy the process. And I couldn't wrap my head around that. But I really believe that. I really believe that you can lose weight and enjoy the process. It's so exciting to wake up and say, I can't wait to see how much I've lost overnight.
Yeah.
That's just a great feeling. And then, my gosh, I haven't worn these pants since high school. Those are some of my favorite things, is walking down the halls and, you see our coaches, our nutritionists looking at a photo of a 40, 50-year-old woman in her wedding picture wearing her wedding dress. She's unable to do that. And there's a lot of crying that goes on in here, and happy tears, and that's the stuff that never gets old. That's exciting to see the way people change. You can see women might start wearing makeup again that weren't because they didn't feel attractive enough. And just the confidence that it gives men, and just the virility it gives men. I mean, that's a big thing that we're seeing now, just because you're putting in real foods into your body again.
Yeah. It is pretty cool. And there's also, at the farther away you get into your journey, I know, at least personally, and from just talking with clients who are years removed from kind of that more structured part of their program, is like, it's fun to go and enjoy myself on that cruise or on that vacation. And I step on the scale and I'm the same weight that I was as I used to gain 20 pounds, through the summer, because I took 2 vacations, and just be like, hey, my body's working for me, not against me. And if I do get off track, I know exactly what foods to go back to.
Thanks for listening. This podcast is brought to you by Revitalize Weight Loss and Wellness. It's unfortunate that we've been led to believe that significant weight loss results can't be sustainable, and to be sustainable, it has to take forever. At Revitalize, we've proven out through research and real-world experience that a combination of high-quality coaching, high-quality supplements, and a customized nutrition plan is really the key to seeing significant results in the short term and being able to sustain those results through metabolic empowerment over the long term. If you'd like to find out more about how we've helped over 11,000 people lose weight and keep it off, check us out at the link below or at revitalizeweightloss.com.
So talk about that. Talk about that myth that we both know is out there. Calories in, calories out versus metabolism.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts first?
I think so many people, like, for example, an avocado is 220 calories?
Something like that.
And let's say a candy bar is 220 calories. Can you realistically, rationally in your mind say, if I eat one or the other, it's not going to have a different effect in my body?
Right.
One has a totally different cascading effect in your body. The candy bar is going to increase insulin, and then you're going to get this drop in blood sugar and all these different things, whereas the avocado is not going to do that. So I think one of the biggest myths that people follow is, if I just count my calories, I'm going to be okay. That's just a really hard way to live.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's something that we want to get away from. And I think people, once we go through a 20 or 40-day program, and then the next phase is introducing more calories, and it horrifies people because they say, I could eat more. Oh my gosh, I'm going to gain the weight back. But it's always fun to see the surprise on their face. Oh my gosh, I'm eating so much more and I'm not gaining weight. Why? Because their metabolism changed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always the people's, our members' eyes when we're like, hey, we haven't been tracking calories. Now we want you to track calories because we want to make sure that you're eating above a certain number, and that number's really high. It's going to be like 1,800 to 2,400 calories a day. And people who are like, what? I was starving myself last year at 1,000 calories a day and not losing weight. Like, how are you telling me I'm not going to gain weight? And it's like, that's the point. When you're eating an anti-inflammatory type diet, when you're fueling yourself well, your body can do what it's designed to do.
And I think you ever remember when you were like a teenager, you could eat whatever you wanted. It didn't matter. Cheetos, and you stayed the same weight or you lost weight. It just doesn't happen. And I think what happens is biochemically our body changes the chemical makeup in our body. And so we don't have that metabolism. So our goal, and with the technology that we have available to us, we're able to identify how do we restore normal metabolism back? And normal's not, for a 50-year-old, is not going to be what it was at 18, but we can improve that metabolism, no doubt. And that's the key, is metabolism. And that's the buzzword for us, is getting you to a point where you can eat what you choose and your body will burn it. And if you went nuts and you got off track, you know how to get it back.
Was that something that, it didn't sound like that was like front of your mind when you started to work on your own health journey, was like, hey, how do I benchmark, measure, and track my metabolic rate? From what I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like that's something we've kind of like, I won't say discovered, obviously people have been measuring that, but it seemed like there was like, as you were building your practice and getting into weight loss, you're like, oh man, there's this metric, metabolic age, that's actually really important, and we should be focusing on this more. When did that kind of start becoming?
As we started using the technology of the specific scales that are going to measure, we can get these metrics of what is your metabolic age. Like, I was, at the time of the heart attack, 49 years old, but my metabolic age, I think, was 62 or something, which is crazy. So,
kind of reverse that now.
And now I'm at 49 as a 65-year-old. So I think and that gives us and the client, it gives them the courage to say, hey, we can keep going on this. But that's so important, so important. But it also tells us, I don't know if we can leave that topic on metabolism because I think it's so essential, but it also tells us about visceral fat, the fat that wraps around the organs in your body. And typically men, it shows up more with that. They might have those skinny legs and the rear end isn't much, but they have this bulging abdomen, and that's fat around the organs. And that's a killer. That's a heart issue. And that's really important. And it's nice to watch that metric come down, but we need to do that. When they come in on their first visit, I want to be able to sit down with them and say, hey, what is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you really want to do? And sometimes I think they short shot themselves saying, I can't see myself being here. And they give a shorter version. And we take that, of course. And then we just say, what have you tried in the past? Because I want to know what they've done in the past, and what foods are you addicted to, if that's the term. And then we do this testing, and we at least have a baseline of saying, look at your metabolic age. Your metabolism's too slow. We know that's a problem. You got this visceral fat. That's a big concern. What about your water? It looks like you're not drinking enough water. You're dehydrated. We want to know all that stuff. And so then what's really nice is week 1, week 2, week 3 on the program, you sit with a nutritionist and we analyze, and we have the old test and then the new one, and we kind of able.
And now you're doing that every day. Like, now that we have the at-home smart scales, it's like people are getting to see that in their app every day, and then we can monitor that daily, which is really fun to see those things.
That's it. So it's not just a shot in the dark kind of program, because so many programs, think about it, how many programs are geared towards you specifically? It's like, if my grandmother wanted one and my 18-year-old son wanted to diet, they'd go to XYZ place and they'll give you
the same program. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I always tell the story, and I think it's so cool, but nobody else seems to appreciate it. But let's say you went into an optometrist and you were kind of in a hurry, and the person ahead of you is walking out with this pair of glasses and say, hey doc, I'm in a hurry. I don't really have time. Just give me the same prescription that lady had. And the guy would laugh at you, right? And that's kind of what weight loss is right now.
Yeah.
You can't live there anymore. That's just not sustainable. And so it has to be individualized.
Totally. What are your thoughts on some of these medications that are out now that we're seeing? Do you have any?
Oh, the medication?
Yeah, like GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, Manjaro.
I understand it. Believe me, I understand it. I understand the desire to take the weight off, because I was there 16 years ago. I don't know what else to do, Oh, give me a shot in the rear end and I lose weight. Hey, I'm all for it,
Yeah.
But we know it's not sustainable. It's not changing your lifestyle. That's one thing, but I think it's causing physical damage, and more of the statistics on that, but it's causing physical, and it's slowing down your metabolism eventually, and it slows motility. So you're not going to the bathroom. So and you're losing muscle mass when you're on these. But I understand. Let's say you're 350 pounds. All right, get on it, take off 80 pounds on it, and then come in. Or we work concurrently with it. We'll work with you on the medicine to do it. But it's just, I have a feeling it's reaching its peak, and I don't know how successful it will continue to be as research comes out.
Yeah, it seems like more and more of the folks that are coming into here tried it, it hasn't worked, or it's jacked up my system, things like that. What else? We covered everything. Anything else that we?
But then I think, but think about it. If you don't have someone that you know or you trust with your health or your weight loss, you go online and you say, oh, Ozempic. Oh, that's a cool commercial. That guy lost X amount of weight. Oh, my insurance might pay something. That's awesome. But you don't know where to go. And that's where we're saying we want to be in touch with you. So you've got access to our coaches, our nutritionists, because if you do it online, a diet online, say, and you get stuck and you go, oh, it's not for me.
Right.
We get patients get stuck, no doubt.
We
We
get
know
always
it
stuck.
typically happens on day 10, 12 or something. We know how to get you out of it. But if you're online, you don't know where to go. And so you need a coach. And it was so invaluable to me when I did the program the first time. I was on the phone every day with that doctor. Hey, I'm experiencing X, Y, and Z. And it was all brand new to me, just as it is for these people coming in. They don't know what to expect, and we need to help them.
How do you think about your wellness in the kind of the back quarter of your life? You live in a pretty active adult community. It seems like many folks that you run with and rumble with are conscious about their health, but there's also some folks over in your community that I've seen, and many folks kind of in their 60s and beyond that are not healthy. What's your personal philosophy there, and what are your goals? And then why is it that some folks just maybe seem to give up a little bit?
Yeah. My community is great, 55 and older. And you see such a wide variety. It's almost, I would love to write a book on it because I'm fascinated. I have friends that are in their 80s that walk the course every day or like 3-4 days a week. I have friends in their 60s that can't even walk up the little hill to get to the tee box, And it's not because they're bad people, but again, if you've sat with me a few times at the pool and you see how some of these people are eating like they're in college still, the fries, the big beer, and I get it because there's this balance that we have to find. That's what I spent a lot of time talking to my wife about is we live in this nirvana that we love. And there's parties every night. You're invited, and
It really is like college,
It
but for
is.
people over 55. It's like there's always organic hangouts happening, and
I know, and it's like we have this social life that's like crazy.
I helped like a drunk guy who was like ran his golf cart into a cactus, and I was leaving with my kids to drive home at 9:00 at night. I'm like, okay, what's happening here?
I know, and it's like there's an Arabic term, yahram.
There's like
I'm like, oh my god. So you see all sorts of it, but I'm just so grateful that I can go and I can hang out at the party. I can have this or that, and my body stays pretty because of the biochemical imbalance is there. But this is kind of a new thing that I'm noticing is if you ever notice people that tend to look older, more wrinkled, just not active. Posture's a big thing. You see someone walking, you think, oh, they're old, because they might be hunched or shuffling. And I think immobility is a big thing as we get older. We need to flex. We need to stretch. We need to move outside of our bodies. I think that's so essential. Movement is really, really important to our health. But I think people that are under chronic stress their whole life tend to look more weathered and more torn. And I know that it has physical effects. The mind affects the physical. And so it's so cool to see. You rarely see people in their 80s that are still healthy and active that didn't have some sort of a routine in their life. They've all had some, whether it's walking, gardening, just meeting with friends, having a social life. There's got to be a balance rather than just sitting and watching the news all day, And it's just, you can't get closed in. You got to keep open. And that takes a conscious effort to do because it's easy to get cloistered.
Yeah. Do you feel like it is just all a personal choice? I feel like there's this big kind of battle I see online of like, oh, if you're obese or unhealthy, it's your fault, which I think is a very American kind of Western thought of like, you're very deterministic. Like, yeah, your outcomes in your life are 100% dictated by your choices and nothing else. Or is it broken food system? Is it chronic stress? Like, what is your take on our chronic disease crisis that we have and obesity crisis that we have?
I think I feel for those people. Believe me, I go to the gym, and like this summer I was at a gym and I saw this woman on this recumbent bike every day. Every day I was there. She was on for like 45 minutes, sweating up a storm, never lost a pound. She had more discipline than I would ever have to do it. So it's not like she's lazy or weak. I just think when your body's out of balance, it's really a big hill to climb to get it fixed. So, and I think just in our fast food environment is, hey, this is quicker to eat this than to search out some other options.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think that one of the things that I've learned, having sat with probably close to 10,000 people here, is that it is, we all could clean up our diets in some ways, right? There's always room for improvement, but there are folks that are much more disciplined than I am, or, than you are, that are really struggling. And it's because of this divorce they had, or they lost a child, or they had some type of trauma or stress that either got them out of a routine and then they were making poor lifestyle choices. But more than that, it just seems like, hey, metabolically, we're shot here. And so your efforts are, you've got to fight 4 times as hard to lose this weight than somebody else whose body's at balance.
I completely agree. And that's where I just think, I feel like shouting from the rooftop, everybody should just get that initial test. If we do it, you can come in, no, we're not going to pressure anybody. Just get on and see what it is and walk away. You'll have this piece of food and know where you're at.
Yeah. What is one piece of advice you wish you'd given yourself back when you first started, this journey of building what is now Revitalized 16 years ago? Is there anything that you would change or do differently?
I really don't think there is. And I thought about that question because I saw it on the paper. I don't know. I just felt like it worked out really, really well. And it was just a great experience to have. And it's just so rewarding to watch people change.
Yeah.
It's just so cool to see how people's lives have been altered. And because of the role that we had in it, we had some small part, large part, whatever part, in getting them back to health.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate this. And it's always good to chat. I'm sure once we click stop record, we'll think of a bunch of more fun stuff to talk about on the next one. So
my pleasure. Thank you. And best wishes on the podcast.
Thanks.